30 years of marriage, shattered in one moment. The message I saw on my father's phone didn't just ruin the party, it destroyed our entire family. I couldn't stay quiet, and that decision changed everything. They say funerals are about grief, about tears, about remembering the good in someone who has passed. But as I stood there, staring at my husband Thomas's coffin, I felt none of that. The church was full, bodies pressed into pews, the smell of lilies sharp in the air. Yet beneath the prayers, beneath the solemn hymns, there was something else, whispers, not of comfort but of suspicion. My hands didn't tremble, my face didn't break. Inside me burned a fire, hot and bitter, a rage that no one in that church could see. My sons, Ethan and Michael, stood at my side. Their eyes were dry, too dry, no redness, no puffiness, just blank stares at the polished wood that held their father. But it wasn't their silence that froze my heart. It was her. Hannah, Ethan's wife, Thomas's student. She stood just a few rows back, dressed in black lace that looked almost too elegant for mourning. Her lips curled ever so slightly, not in grief, not in respect, but in something else, something colder. Background, church bells toll, faint whispers. People thought I would collapse, that I would scream or faint or crumble under the weight of widowhood, but I didn't. I stood tall, because I knew something they didn't. Thomas's death wasn't natural. That day, in the echo of the bells and the murmurs of the mourners, I made myself a promise. I would uncover the truth, even if it meant tearing away the masks of my own children, even if it meant burning down the world I had built around us. My husband was gone, but his shadow lingered, and I would follow it until it led me to the heart of the betrayal. Pause, piano fades to silence. The morning after the funeral, the house was silent. Not the peaceful kind of silence, but the kind that hummed with ghosts. Every room smelled faintly of candle wax and flowers, remnants of the vigil. I sat at the dining table, untouched coffee cooling in my hands, staring at Thomas's chair across from me. It was empty, yet somehow still occupied. His presence clung to it. People said we had the perfect life. They weren't wrong, at least not on the surface. Thomas was respected, a university professor, loved by students, admired by colleagues. And me, I was the wife who held everything together. But perfection is a costume, and I'd started to notice the seams years ago. He'd come home late, smelling of perfume that wasn't mine, with laughter in his eyes that didn't belong to me. At first, I told myself it was work, stress, exhaustion. But deep down, a part of me already knew. And then Hannah appeared. She was beautiful, yes, but in a dangerous way. She had that sharp, polished charm that made men feel young again. And Thomas, my Thomas, had been too weak to resist. Voice lowers, almost whisper. I should have confronted him. I should have shouted, demanded, broken the illusion long before it poisoned us. But I stayed silent, out of fear, out of love, out of the desperate need to keep my family from crumbling. And now he was gone. My sons thought I didn't know. They thought I was blind to the whispers, the stolen glances, the way Hannah's smile lingered when Thomas entered a room. But I wasn't blind. I saw everything. And as I stared at that empty chair, I felt it rising in me again, rage sharper than grief. Rage that they thought they could keep me in the dark. Rage that they thought I would bow my head and mourn quietly, like the dutiful wife. No. If Thomas's death was the end of something, then it would also be the beginning. The truth was hiding somewhere in this house, in their eyes, in their silence. And I was going to find it. The days after the funeral blurred together. Visitors came with casseroles and pitying eyes, their words syrupy and meaningless. You're so strong, they said. Thomas adored you. He's in a better place now. I nodded, smiled, let them believe. But inside, I was unraveling, not from sorrow but from suspicion. Because the more I watched, the clearer it became. Ethan and Hannah were too composed, Michael too distant, and every time Thomas's name was mentioned, there was a flicker in their eyes, not grief, not loss, but something else. On the third night, I found myself wandering the house. I ended up in Thomas's study, his sanctuary. The room smelled of leather and ink. His books lined the shelves, neat and orderly, like his life once appeared. I sat at his desk, running my fingers across its surface. That's when I noticed his phone charger, still plugged in, but the phone itself was gone. A chill swept over me. Thomas never went anywhere without that phone, and if it wasn't here, where was it? I opened the drawers, papers, bills, journals, and then, tucked at the very back, a folded envelope. I pulled it out with trembling hands. It was addressed to me. I hesitated. My heart pounded against my ribs as I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, his handwriting sharp and deliberate. If you are reading this, it means something has gone wrong. I never wanted you to find out this way. There are things I've done, mistakes, and I fear they may cost me everything. Please protect the boys, and whatever happens, do not trust Hannah. The room spun. My breath caught in my throat. Don't trust Hannah. He had known she was dangerous. And now he was dead. I pressed the letter to my chest, tears finally welling in my eyes, not for him, but for the betrayal, for the weight of the truth pressing down on me. I thought back to the way Hannah smiled at the funeral, that secret smile, that flicker of triumph. Thomas had been weak, but Hannah had been something worse, calculated, patient, ruthless. And if she was capable of seducing my husband, what else was she capable of? The shadows of suspicion had hardened into something real, something undeniable. I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't paranoid. The truth was here, and it was darker than I ever dared believe. Voice breaks, but sharpens again. I folded the letter carefully, tucking it into my pocket. My pulse was steady now, my path clear. If Hannah thought she had buried the truth with Thomas, she was wrong. Because I wasn't done. I was just getting started. The letter stayed folded inside my pocket, but its weight grew heavier with every hour. It felt less like paper and more like a curse stitched into my clothes, whispering against my ribs, reminding me with every breath that my husband had lived a double life. I carried it with me everywhere. Into the kitchen, into bed, even into the shower where steam curled around me and the ink of his words burned into my memory. Do not trust Hannah. The words gnawed at me like rats. But what did Thomas know? Did he suspect her of betrayal, of manipulation, or of something darker? That evening, the house was restless. Ethan sat with Hannah on the couch, his hand resting absently on her knee. Michael busied himself in the corner, pretending to scroll his phone, but watching them with the same tight jaw I had seen at the funeral. And me, I lingered in the doorway, silent, clutching a glass of wine I had no intention of drinking. My eyes traced the invisible lines between them, the glances, the touches, the unspoken understanding. Hannah laughed softly at something Ethan whispered, her eyes glinting in the lamplight. But the sound wasn't joyful. It was sharp, a knife disguised as a giggle. For the first time, I saw it clearly. Hannah wasn't just here. She was in control. Her eyes flickered toward me, just for a moment, and she knew I had read the letter. She didn't need to say a word. Her smile said it all. I own your son. I owned your husband. And now I own you too. I turned away before the rage in my face could betray me. That night, sleep refused to come. I lay awake listening to the creak of floorboards, the distant hum of whispered voices. My hand brushed the letter beneath my pillow, and I swore I heard Thomas's voice in the dark. Protect the boys. Don't trust her. But how could I protect them when they had already chosen her side? The curse of the letter was not just its words. It was the silence it demanded. I knew I couldn't confront her yet, not until I had proof, not until I understood just how deep her claws had sunk into this family. So I waited, watching, listening. And Hannah kept smiling. Dinner used to be sacred in our house. No matter how busy Thomas was, no matter how far the boys strayed, we always came together at the table. Laughter, stories, little rituals that made us whole. But that night, the table felt like a battlefield. Michael stabbed at his food in silence. Ethan tried too hard to make conversation, his words bright but empty. And Hannah, oh Hannah, sat like a queen at the head of the table, even though the chair was mine. Her dress was too elegant for an evening at home. Her nails tapped against her wine glass like a clock counting down. She asked questions, but never the kind that mattered. "So, Michael," she said sweetly, tilting her head, "are you still thinking about moving out? A fresh start, maybe?" Michael's fork froze midair, his eyes narrowed. "No," he muttered, "I'm staying." Something passed between them in that moment. A challenge, a warning. I saw it all. Ethan laughed nervously. "Come on, you two, let's not fight, we're family." But the word family tasted sour on my tongue. I set my fork down. "Funny," I said softly. "That's exactly what Thomas used to say, before he started staying late at work." The room froze. Ethan glanced at Hannah, whose smile never wavered. Michael looked down at his plate, his jaw tightening. "Mom," Ethan said, his voice strained, "please not tonight." "Why not tonight?" I snapped, the anger finally spilling. "When is a good time to talk about the lies that are choking this family?" Silence, heavy, suffocating silence. And then Hannah leaned forward, her voice smooth as silk. "Maybe this isn't about lies, Margaret. Maybe this is about grief. Sometimes when we lose someone, we invent stories to make sense of the pain." Her eyes pierced mine, a challenge. But I didn't flinch. I stared back, and for the first time, I let her see the fire in me. "This isn't grief," I said coldly. "This is truth, and sooner or later it will come out." The table crackled with tension. Michael pushed his chair back and stormed out. Ethan muttered something about everyone needing rest. Hannah just smiled and sipped her wine. The dinner ended in silence. But the war had only just begun. The letter had warned me, the dinner had confirmed it, but I still needed proof, something undeniable. And proof came in the shape of a missing phone. Thomas's phone had vanished the night he died. I remembered noticing the charger in his study, but not the device itself. At first, I thought the police had taken it, but when I called the detective, he told me they had never recovered it. So where was it? One afternoon, when Ethan and Hannah were out shopping, I slipped into their bedroom. The air smelled faintly of Hannah's perfume, sweet, suffocating, invasive. I opened drawers, rifled through papers, checked under the bed. Nothing. And then I saw her purse on the dresser. I hesitated. My heart hammered against my chest as I unzipped it. Inside, beneath layers of makeup and receipts, lay a phone. Thomas's phone. My breath caught. I snatched it up, my hands trembling. The screen was locked, but the charger in his study was the same model. I rushed to plug it in. When the screen lit up, I nearly dropped it. Messages, dozens of them, from Hannah, from Ethan, from numbers I didn't recognize. One stood out. "We can't keep waiting. She's starting to suspect. If we want this life, we have to finish what we started." The blood drained from my face. It wasn't just an affair. It wasn't just betrayal. It was conspiracy. Hannah hadn't just seduced Thomas. She had planned something, and Ethan, my own son, was part of it. The phone slipped from my hand and clattered against the desk. My knees gave out, and I sank to the floor, gasping for air. This was bigger than I had ever imagined. And suddenly, I understood why Thomas had written that letter. He hadn't just been warning me about Hannah. He had been begging me to save our family from her. That night, the house itself felt alive. The wooden beams groaned, the pipes whispered, the walls carried secrets like veins carrying blood. I couldn't sleep. The discovery of Thomas's phone haunted me, every message burning into my skull like firebrands. Hannah, Ethan, conspiracy. I moved quietly through the hallway, barefoot on the cool floorboards. Moonlight bled through the curtains, stretching shadows into monsters. From Ethan's room came a low murmur, a voice, Hannah's. I crept closer, holding my breath, pressing myself against the wall. "She's suspicious," Hannah whispered. "If she finds out everything." "She won't," Ethan interrupted, his voice firm. "She's just grieving, she'll forget." Forget. The word sliced through me. No, Hannah said sharply. You don't understand. She found something. I can feel it. She looks at me differently now. My hands curled into fists. She was right. I did look at her differently, because I finally saw her for what she was, a predator. Ethan sighed. Even if she knows, what can she do? No one will believe her, not Michael, not the police. It's her word against ours. My heart stopped. Theirs. Not his, theirs. They weren't just in this together. They were bound. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over the rug. My chest heaved. I wanted to scream, to storm in and drag Ethan away from her poisonous grip. But something, Thomas's voice, perhaps, held me back. Wait, watch, collect everything. I returned to my room, shaking, and locked the door behind me. The walls whispered louder that night, carrying Hannah's laughter through the house like smoke. And I knew the real battle was only beginning. The next morning, I decided I couldn't pretend anymore. Hannah sat at the table, sipping coffee as if she owned the place. Ethan read the paper, oblivious, while Michael was nowhere to be seen. I placed Thomas's phone on the table with a sharp thud. Ethan froze. Hannah's smile faltered just for a second. Where did you get that? She asked smoothly, her voice too calm. Where you hid it, I said. My own voice was steady, though my insides burned. In your purse, among the ashes of my husband's life. Ethan looked between us, panic creeping across his face. Mom, wait. No, I snapped. No more waiting. Do you want to explain these messages, or should I read them out loud? The silence was deafening. Finally, Hannah leaned back, her smile returning, colder than ever. Go ahead, read them. See how far your paranoia takes you. I unlocked the phone and read aloud. We can't keep waiting. She's starting to suspect. If we want this life, we have to finish what we started. Ethan's face drained of color. Hannah, what is that? But Hannah didn't flinch. She tilted her head and said, Context matters. You don't know what we were talking about. Oh, I know enough, I hissed. You and Thomas, you and Ethan. Lies stacked on lies until my family is drowning in them. Ethan slammed his hand on the table. Stop it, just stop. You're tearing this family apart. My laugh was bitter hollow. No, Ethan, she is. Hannah stood, her eyes blazing. Do you hear yourself, Margaret? Do you? You sound insane. Everyone grieves differently, but this obsession, it's destroying you. Obsession, I spat. No, this is survival. We stared at each other across the battlefield of the breakfast table, the air thick with venom. And then Michael walked in. He froze, taking in the scene, the phone, the fury, the tension. What's going on? He demanded. I looked at him, my eyes pleading. Michael, please, tell me you see it too. Tell me you see what she's doing. But Hannah was quicker. She crossed the room, her hand resting gently on Michael's arm, her voice dripping honey. Your mother's confused, darling. She's hurting. She thinks I'm plotting against her. It's ridiculous. Michael's eyes flickered. Doubt, confusion, but not conviction. I realized with a hollow ache that I was still alone.